Hi there, I'm Andrea Koppel, and it's Time for Coffee, the podcast where you get to hear firsthand what the jobs and careers that interest you the most are really like. Hey there, Java Junkies. Welcome to another K-Cup mini episode of Time for Coffee. By the way, K-Cups come in 3 sizes, single, double, and triple shots, or roughly 1 minute, 5 minutes, or 10 minutes in length. So if you don't have time to throw back an entire caffeinated career conversation, these K-Cup mini episodes of T4C can give you a quick caffeinated fix, whether you're on the go or you only have a few minutes to binge. So grab your mug and take a chug, because it's time for a caffeinated career triple shot K-Cup with my guest, Theresa VanderMeer. Before we talk about what you did prior to going out on your own, Theresa, because there was a lot of zigging and zagging that went on, I thought we could flash back to when you were in college. You went to the University of Michigan and you graduated with a BA in Anthropology and International Affairs.
Sure.
Did you know what you were going to do with that degree when you graduated?
I didn't think I was going to make it through college, Andrea. I felt like I first generation, my parents were both blue collar workers. My mother was a welder, Rosie the Riveter. My mother was a welder at a furniture company in Michigan. And my father was in the tool and die trade. So it was a trade. And so I really grew up in an environment where that was sort of the norm and it was encouraged. And so really my desire to go to college came from a place of like, knowing that the world was bigger. I had this transformative trip to Peru when I was a young teenager. And so I just loved being in school. I loved learning and I knew the world was a bigger place. And so it was really a very big deal for me to even go to the University of Michigan. So, and everybody I knew who had gone to college, besides my teachers, had dropped out. They talked about how expensive it was, how hard it was to get through. And so I did have support, significant support from my teachers who encouraged me down that road. So by the time I got to the University of Michigan, I really felt like, I had to work through all of college. I remember I was working over 30 hours a week, a part-time job while having a full course load. And so by the time that I got to the end of my degree, I was just like, couldn't believe I had gotten there. It was a marathon. It was a sprint of trying to support myself, but also get through at the same time. So, there was a number of years afterwards where I felt like, oh my gosh, I should have gone into medicine, because if I got into medicine, I would be able to help people in a more direct way and I would be able to support myself. But really what ended up happening is I had to support myself, and I had a career, I had a degree in anthropology that didn't lend itself specifically to any industry or role, but I had interest in women, in supporting women in need. And I had this experience in India. So really, I had these sort of like parallel lives where Work Shelter was a passion project. And then I graduated during the heart of the recession, and it was just sink or swim. Sink or swim. I had to figure out how to support myself. There were no more student loans. The part-time work didn't cut it anymore. I had to get a career. And for me, that started at a temp agency where I was just placed for one day to answer the phones. I did a good job answering the phones. I was like, oh my gosh, here I am. I haven't gone to college and here I am answering phones. But that's where I started. And they said, you did a good job this one day. Why don't you come back for 2 weeks while our administrative assistant's on leave? So I did that. And during that 2 weeks, I was working with executive leadership at the company. And they said to me, you're really smart. What's your story? What are you doing here? You're late in the office trying to make sure things are done every day. We'd like to know more about you. And that's when I was brought on for a full-time permanent role in client management. And that really kicked off my career.
Incredible. So let's see, I'm just going forward here. Which was that at Fusion? What was that first
Fusion
job?
Yes,
Fusion
it
Medical
was.
Communications.
Yeah, pharmaceutical marketing agency. Yeah.
Incredible. I love that you did the temp angle. I actually did that as well at one point after graduation. And I was just thinking the other day, I need to be talking about that more on LinkedIn because for whatever reason, I'm not seeing it. There may be people talking about temp organizations, but I actually think that's a great way to get your foot in the door.
Totally. And it's not like they said to me, oh, you're temping for one day. This could turn into something. They never said that. They said, come for one day. Okay, come for 2 weeks. Sometimes they would call me the morning of. I would say, yes, I needed the money. I needed the work. And so I would have never known what would come out of that, those first couple experiences temping.
Excellent. Not excellent that you didn't know, but excellent that you did get something out of it.
Absolutely.
You alluded to the fact that you graduated during the last Great Recession. You graduated in May of 2008.
Yeah.
I have to imagine, Theresa, that you feel a tremendous amount of empathy with the class of 2020 and the class of 2021 who'll be graduating this spring. We're doing this interview now in the middle of January of 21.
Absolutely.
What advice do you have for these young students who have either already graduated or about to graduate into a terrible economy with the coronavirus still around?
Sure. I really do have a lot of empathy and compassion. And I remember being turned down for a retail job after I had graduated and just feeling like, wow, I can't even get a job at a store yet, even though I have this 4-year degree. But as I just shared, I needed a different path, and there was a different path. And so what I would say, I know it can be hard to just wake up every day and say, okay, I'm looking for a solution. I'm looking for a job. I want to work in this space. And to feel that rejection, or to feel like I don't know how I'm ever going to get to the place where I really want to be. And what I would say to that is maybe you can't keep your energy up every single day, but try to look at the context. Things will not be like this forever. They probably won't even be like this for one more year. There is going to be an opportunity for you. And so to keep your eyes and to keep your attention pointed outward, to keep conversations happening, to keep up those efforts, eventually something will work out. And just assume that it's not going to work out right now. Assume that it's going to take 6 months. Give yourself a timeline that's not this has to be resolved. I have to know what I'm doing in the next month. Sometimes we just can't do that. And I come across that even as an entrepreneur, where I'm I really want to know, what will my numbers be next month? I don't know what my numbers are going to be next month. I have no idea what's going to happen, right? There are all these things that we can't control. So the only thing that we can control is ourselves, and just keeping an outward look and a motivation, knowing that that opportunity will arrive at some point.
100%. I agree. Now, I actually have your resume right here, and I usually mark them up.
Oh my gosh.
It's fun to look at.
I haven't looked at mine. I don't need to send it to early. So, yeah.
Well, I see that you got an internship in January of 2009. You graduated in May, and there's a gap, and that may be the gap when you were working at the temp agency. Mm-hmm. But you worked for 4 months at Amnesty International.
Yeah.
Would you say that was your first professional experience after you graduated, or was there something else?
Yeah, I would say that was it. So after I graduated, I went to India, and I had this whole big scheme. I was going to take a pony caravan with this women weavers cooperative to Tibet and work and get footage of them getting this raw cashmere from these goats that they were herding. I just had this big scheme. And when I got to India, it fell apart. And so I needed to do something. Amnesty International had an office in Delhi. And so I was able to use my writing skills to edit their magazine. And actually that experience at Amnesty International, it was interesting to go to protests and actually be in the streets protesting for women's rights, and the police would come and all this stuff. That was interesting. But from a day-to-day perspective, I just felt I don't really feel I'm like not excited to go edit this magazine. And so that was a sort of thing in the keep doing your own stuff. You like go and source these artisans and sell it. And that eventually led to Work Shelter. But yes, that time at Amnesty International was the first like post-college opportunity.
Got it. And when you say it was like a ding, was that like your gut that was telling you this is not the right path to keep pursuing in terms of the type of do-gooder work that I want to be doing? I want to get my hands dirty.
Yeah, exactly. Maybe I'm short-sighted, but I didn't believe that I was really making a significant impact with the editing that I was doing. And I'm not saying that work's not important. I believe that it does contribute. But for me, I knew that I wanted to really see with my own eyes. I didn't want to just say like, oh, we're putting this thing out into the world. Hopefully people read it. I really wanted to be more direct. Like, these women need something. I'm going to see if I can get it to them. Okay, we're going to grow that and grow that and grow that.
Thanks for tuning in to this K-Cup mini episode of Time for Coffee. If you want to listen to our entire caffeinated career conversation, please check out the show notes for this episode. Thanks so much for listening to Time for Coffee, where the professionals in the jobs that most interest you always have time to grab coffee 24/7, no matter where you live. I have one quick favor to ask you. Remember to rate, review, and subscribe to Time for Coffee. Thanks so much.